Republicans are attacking Charlie Crist for putting political ambition ahead of his principles. But when Crist was governor, teachers all across the state praised him for putting principles ahead of politics.
I think that he's distinguished himself as somebody who's willing to do something right rather than somebody who's willing to do something that's politically expedient.
Crist outraged his fellow Republicans by vetoing Senate Bill 6, which heavily tied teacher pay to students' test scores.
He definitely is the teacher's hero today.
That decision to buck his own party on Senate Bill 6 to do what he thought was right played a part, arguably a big part, in Crist losing the Republican base, which triggered the odd chain of events which led to his rebirth as a Democrat.
Restore the cuts.
Yeah, we have to restore the cuts.
Now Crist, the former education commissioner who won over the teachers union as governor by killing Senate Bill 6, thinks he can beat Governor Scott on the issue of education.
Restore the cuts! Restore the cuts!
He's pounding Scott for cutting school funding by $1.3 billion his first year in office.
When Charlie Crist wants to talk about education, it's a little bit laughable. Here's a guy that cut education funding when he was governor.
Truth is, Scott and Crist both cut school funding when the economy was down and both raised it when the economy was up. But Crist kept saying that he holds the record for per student spending, that to this day we spend around $200 less per student than we did 7 years ago when he was governor. And Scott's camp had to respond to that.
Charlie Crist basically is just saying, you know what, look at that dollar amount, look at the shiny ball.
That's Rick Scott's surrogate on the campaign trail, John Legg, who, by the way, sponsored the House version of Senate Bill 6.
We are setting the record $2 billion more in education.
In total dollars, but not per student.
In total dollars, we're spending $2 billion more in education.
I get that, but per student, why with the $3 billion surplus are we not where we were in 07?
Well, if you look at what Governor Scott did, he put $40 million into digital technology. The bottom line is we have $2 billion more in education under Rick Scott than we did Charlie Crist.
But Scott finally responded by proposing a big hike in per student spending, enough to break the old record under Crist. So now Scott and Crist are locked in an arms race on education, with one trying to outspend or outpromise the other. And that could pay off for our kids, no matter who wins in November.
One of the most important investments we can make is in our children,
I care about your kids.
their education.
I care about their education.
We have historic funding, the highest in the history of the state.
When you can't match the kind of per pupil funding that I did during the Great Recession, that's embarrassing.
We're heading in the right direction.
Education.
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 Have a great day. Bye-bye.